fans, welcome back to Hot Takes and Heaters. He's Danny Miller. I am Nick Murawski. This is the MLB-centric portion of the FutureSox family of podcasts, articles, all the great stuff that's happening in the FutureSox world, and that's where it's at is White Sox fans, and really is Sox content right now. It's the future, but we are lucky enough to talk White Sox, MLB, this 24-63 team. As
are we lucky
here? We are. We're absolutely lucky. It's the evening of July 2nd. You join us live. We appreciate it on the FutureSox YouTube channel on Twitch. Subscribe, set your notifications, smash the like button, all that stuff. We do appreciate it. We're talking on the heels here of this loss to the Cleveland Guardians in bottom of the ninth walk-off fashion, one of those one-run games that Pedro Grifol loves to be in but rarely gets right. We've got so many other things to get to in the week that was. We've been off for a little bit, including a Tim Anderson DFA. But hello to my partner, my friend, diehard Sox fan, Danny Miller. How have you been, buddy?
Hanging in there, man. Last week we took a week off. I know you had some prior engagements, and I did have plans to bring on one of a few guest hosts that I had in mind, and unfortunately, the Sunday leading into our next show, we had the second of our dogs pass on us. He died of a broken heart. They were like an old married couple, the two of them. So when his girlfriend went, it wasn't long after that he went. So we were dealing with that, and among other things, we just had a lot going on, and we decided to take a week off. But we're doing okay. We're as you and I were talking off air right before we started here. I was not in a hurry to go out and do anything, and we were at our campground a couple weeks ago, and one of our neighbors had the cutest little French bulldog, little Frenchie, and it was like a month and a half, 2 months old, tiny little thing, and everybody was like wanting to hold it and snuggle it and kiss it and all these things, and we did all that, and it turns out that after our second dog passed, and somebody saw one of the posts on Facebook or Twitter, they said, hey, there's still two of these dogs left from this litter. And my wife was like, well, guess we got to do it. And I'm like, well, all right. So next week, I probably won't have it in time for the show next week, but sometime next week, we will be picking up a beautiful little Frenchie. And, maybe she'll have to make an appearance on the following week's show.
Yeah.
But all in all, man, everything's okay. Good. Just getting ready for the 4th and putting on a display out at the campground.
Nice.
Not doing the big thing at home this year. And part of the reason was because of 2 sick dogs. But now that that's done, we decided to move our little display out to the campground. So we'll be doing that. But, just watching some White Sox baseball and the highs and lows of that here. We had a 3-game winning streak. Looked like it could have extended to 4, and in White Sox fashion, that didn't happen. But all in all, it's been a roller coaster, man.
Yeah, we had the Dodgers, series. We had the Colorado Rockies, that little makeup game against the Braves, tucked in there against Chris Sale, which was kind of interesting. That was a 1-run game that went in Pedro's favor thanks to a Luis Robert Jr. bomb. We had John Schriffen
the entire game there.
Yeah, that was it. We had John Schriffen, getting his Panther growl on Saturday.
That was awful. I'm sorry.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think this team is so
Pat's
bad.
Impression of
Pat did
fantastic.
On Good Guys Talk back on Sunday night. Pat broke out an impromptu Panther growl that was outstanding. I mean, it
absolutely,
it really blew Schriffen's out of the water. And I think if Schriffen had that one in the chamber and he unleashed that one, maybe everyone would be feeling a little different. But I mean, at this point, it's like just whatever. hey, you know what? Everybody hates you anyways. Just go out and growl. Who cares? Just have some fun with it.
Just do it. Just
No
go
matter
for it,
what
man.
you say, people are going to have a problem with it. No matter what you say or how you phrase it, they are going to hate on you. Just if you want to growl, it was a 470-foot bomb by Luis Robert Jr. Go ahead and growl. I don't care. This team is awful. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. Now, and we've talked about John a lot.
Yeah.
And the only reason we continue talking about is because he just happens to stay in the news.
he finds a way.
And
finds a way.
There are some folks that are not big fans of him, and
hate him.
I mean, I can understand why. Like you're trying to sell a really bad team, and I think folks are just they don't want to be sold right now. And I think if I had any advice to John is just do your job and don't try to oversell it, because if you're under some kind of 2, 3, 4-year contract with the White Sox, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to have those high energy moments. You don't need to try to find them now. So
listen,
I have no issue with the guy.
I think you're right on that. I think there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of anger, and it's justifiable. And there is a feeling that this organization can't do anything right. It's poverty, and they can't put a team together. They can't develop. They don't spend money. Everybody the stadium's horrible. They can't get people in on time. They can't get a real play-by-play guy. Everything's bad. And my argument, which again I went in, I talked a lot about it on Good Guys Talk Back. So I apologize if people are hearing this again, but I kind of wanted to get your take, Danny. Is
sure
if this team was flipped and they were 63-24. I mean, and everybody was on cloud nine. You were high-fiving Sox fans when you saw them out on the street. Those feelings when the Sox are rocking and rolling, and it hasn't been many in our lifetime, but there have been those moments. And even within good seasons when they're on an 8-game, 9-game winning streak, and it's just everything is great. And if you had a team that was dominating not only the division, but the rest of the American League. And we were going to be sending multiple players to the All-Star game. And it looked like we've got something that was going to go deep into October. I'm sorry. If you are complaining about a growl on a home run and your team is 63-24, I don't get that. I absolutely don't get that. If you're still crossing your arms and saying, wow, he's miserable. He doesn't know what he's doing. This is amateur hour. They couldn't get your team. It's the team, okay, that we're all watching and hoping for. Your team is dominating and is a juggernaut and is most likely going to find themselves in the ALCS. Again, huge hypothetical. But I find when people say, oh, I'd still be mad at John Triffin. I'm fascinated by that. To each their own. But that's crazy.
The thing is I don't buy that for a minute.
Yeah.
I don't buy it for one stinking minute that if the White Sox, let's say this was the 05 White Sox who were in first place from wire to wire, right? And were beating teams that people thought they shouldn't beat. And they were doing all these things. And, if it was Paul Konerko going out and hitting bombs and Jermaine Dye going out and making some kind of crazy defensive play and then turning around and hitting a home run. And, you got everybody and their brother. AJ Przinsky was having the season of his entire career after, getting his night lens contacts and whatever, all these things that were going on. And the pitching staff was doing just absolutely everything they possibly could to help this White Sox team win. You're going to tell me that when John Triffin goes out and makes this exciting call, you're a fan base that's already hyped up now because your team is playing great. You're hyped. You're feeling that energy. And then John Triffin comes in and says, Southside, stand up. You know what you're doing? You're standing the F up.
Yeah.
You're like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I don't buy it one bit. Now, there are some of those older traditionalists that are going to say, you know what, let's clean it up. And that's never going to go away.
Yeah, correct.
But I don't think there's going to be like large portions of this fan base that are going to be like, just John Triffin guy is just terrible.
Yeah.
No, if the team's playing better and he's got this kind of energy, you're feeling that energy. You're feeding off that energy. You're hanging out in the bars with your buddies. You're cracking beers in the yard over a barbecue.
You're laughing with
family
him,
and
not
friends.
at him.
And everybody is enjoying the crap out of that. And you're talking crap. Jason Benetti, perfect example. Now we look at Eloy Jimenez now, and everybody's just kind of indifferent about what he's doing out there, or upset that he can't stay on the field and he can't get it together when he is on the field. But the whole thanks Cubs thing, I bet most fan bases outside of Chicago, when they heard that, were cringing. I know Cubs fans are like, that's awful. That's terrible. Your announcer sucks. But White Sox fans ate that
Loved
stuff.
ate it up. Oh my
goodness. It up. And it's no different than what John's doing now. John's just doing it with a really bad baseball team. And it's like I said, my only criticism is maybe tuck that in just a little bit for now, because your opportunities are going to come.
Yeah. I said something about DJ, and I used the analogy when I spoke with Pat about this on Darren Jackson. And I don't know how you stood on Darren Jackson when he came in I believe 2000, but I grew up with Wimpy and Hawk for 9 or 10 years, whatever it was. And they were great together. At least they sounded great together. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, if anything. We never know. But it sure sounded great to me. I mean, they finished each other's sentences. It just, ketchup and mustard. But Darren comes in, and he was rough around the edges. He just was
really
not
flat and early on,
and he was stepping on toes. And I know Hawk was probably like, hey, this is my terrain, as Hawk tends to do. This is my town. This is my booth. And it was difficult. I'm sure it was very difficult. But I don't think Darren helped himself out. He just didn't have a natural sense. And that, to me, was still carrying into the 05 season, where it's like I still hadn't warmed up to Darren Jackson. Some of the things he would say, it was sloppy. But the team was amazing. I don't care what you sound like, Darren Jackson. I'm not going to remember this. I'm going to remember, what happens on the field, the team, and how it was built and how it performed and eventually what it did. Winning cleans all that stuff up. And when you got a team right now that's 24-63, everything's put it under a microscope. And boy, everything Schriffen says, man. And Drew's got it in the chat. And I saw the great photos that Drew Bogues put on social media, on Twitter X, about Schriffen and Stoney coming out to the Sports Bums.
Yeah, they both
tailgate.
made it out there, which is, I mean, that's uncanny. That's unheard of for Stoney to be out there perusing with the fans and rubbing elbows.
I was shocked. I was really shocked to see that. But again,
and I think that's probably a direct correlation to John. You can thank John for that, because John was out there at the Bums tailgate for opening day. You and I both had an opportunity to run into John. You walked John right to the tailgate that he was looking for.
Yeah.
He was looking for that specific tailgate. You brought him over. Hey, it's right here. Everybody hobnobbed and rubbed elbows with him, and John loved it, and he had a great time. Stoney's never done that. So you can't tell me that John wasn't like, hey man, you need to come out here with me and check this thing out.
Yeah. I mean, I think in a season like this, it's those little things maybe that help the fan. Now, does it help his play-by-play call? I think there's still the same people that are going to be pissed if the Sox are great and Schriffen's still in the call. Those people will be like, oh, I don't care if he shows up to a tailgate. What's the big deal? He can't, he's unnatural. He's a bum. I don't like him. I don't like his call. So you can't please some people no matter what happens. I think it's nice. I just think it's a fun thing to see. Your play-by-play, your color guy now showing up at some tailgates, when they could say, like, I don't care. They could do what they could do what Luis Robert Jr. did to end the Cleveland game. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to throw this in. It's not going to matter anyway. I'm not going to get this guy.
Excuse me.
I don't care. They showed up. I appreciated that.
He was brought in to do a job. And he was specifically brought in because, Sox brass had heard him do exciting calls, and he's done a lot of them very well in his past. And like I said before, I've watched, kind of like highlight videos of this guy do his thing with, NCAA football and basketball, whatever, whatever event he was at. And, it was a highlight reel of highlight reels, just like anybody else. It doesn't show the bad moments. It shows all the good moments, but that's what he was brought in here for. He's a high energy guy, and they knew this team was going to need high energy. And I think he's basically telling everybody, you know what, this is what I do. This is what I was hired to do. And it doesn't matter how bad this baseball team is. I'm going to continue to do what I was brought in to do. And he's just going out there and doing his job on a daily basis.
I want to give credit to it was either My Sox Summer or Beef Loaf. It might have been Beef Loaf, or maybe it was through the 108 account on Twitter X. And I kind of was thinking the same thing, but the amount of people that have sworn off watching the Sox, it's unbelievable. I'm not watching this team again. But then, triple fold, it's complaining about Schriffen. It's like, oh, wait a second. I thought everybody was not watching,
right?
Wait a second. I thought we were all not watching the game. It's interesting all of a sudden how we're watching now. Oh, wow.
You're calling your bluff.
Okay, interesting. Anyway,
Sox podcasters are calling your bluff.
Whatever. You've been
telling us you're not watching, but apparently you are.
Yeah.
And don't tell me you're just catching highlights and the way this guy sounds.
It was that one game in May. I saw a game. It was in May. It was horrible. He mispronounced somebody's name. He's a bum. I don't need that on the South Side. Anyway, the Sox kicked things off in Cleveland, and I don't know if you caught any of the game, Danny. I caught most of it, and the ending was horrible. It was a classic walk-off in Cleveland. Back and forth, Sox kind of gave the game away in multiple opportunities. The way it ended, though, a lot of people talking about, I brought it up with Luis Robert Jr., flat foot, kind of backpedaling to catch a ball in center with, I believe it was Jimenez was on third for Cleveland, who's a speedster, a burner, and, Kopech's on the mound. Kopech's having, a classic Kopech moment, spiking balls, walking guys, sweating, just, he's completely out of sorts. And I don't know if it was Robert didn't know the amount of outs. I didn't catch any of the post game, what his reaction was, what his comments were, what Grifol had to say. But, he completely no throw, and again, you're not going to throw him out. But
that's the thing. You're not going to get him even if you play it the way you're supposed to.
As Guillen was talking about in the beginning, right at the beginning of the post game, like, as an outfielder, like, you are going in, you are moving in, your momentum is going in, you're setting yourself up, you're lining everything. You had time. It was a fly ball where you could camp under and set yourself up. None of that was done. Like, at least throw. Give me a throw. What's the worst that can happen? That was goofy to me. I don't know what your take was.
I mean, I was kind of, before the post game even came on, I watched that and I thought to myself, well, he just wasn't in the right spot. I felt the same way Ozzie did. You need to be moving in on that ball, knowing that there's a man on third to even give yourself an opportunity. That was a little perplexing, but at the same time, like we already talked about, you're not going to get Jimenez for where that ball was hit, the depth that he was at in center field. I don't think there was a guy in baseball, in the history of baseball, that was going to throw Jimenez out on that one. Andres Jimenez is fast. And, you could absolutely have the best cannon in baseball. Chances are 98, 99 times out of 100 he's beating that. It's going to have to be an absolutely dart to home plate. You're throwing BBs, and it's got to be perfect. And if it's off by an eyelash, he's beating that out. So, no harm, no foul. But the thing is it did look just misjudged and misplayed. And it's just not something you want to see from the guy who's supposed to be possibly the most, he's the most valuable position player on your team. Sure. Whether or not he's here at, after July is a whole nother story. But, you're not doing anything to help your trade value, number one, and you're not doing anything to help, your next contract that's, going to be available to you in a couple years here.
It looks like he just takes some time off, mentally. It just seems like he really does check out. Who was the player? Oh gosh, they're talented guy, I think, on the north side, on the Cubs years ago, that never really amounted much. And it just seemed like he took moments off. I think he was a middle infielder, if I'm not mistaken. The name's not going to come to me. If maybe it pops in my head later in the show, but it just like he really just, good. Yeah, I think he was the shortstop or a second baseman. And, it just seemed like he would just
How far back are we talking?
I'm talking about probably before World Series. So like maybe early 2000 teens, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, something like that. So maybe, we're talking 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Anyway, it's just like,
sorry, I was just trying to help you out with that.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any helping me. But it just, you're out, you're daydreaming, and that's happened before with Robert Jr. And he's admitted to it when he's just biffed a fly ball in center field, just kind of, it was just like in outer space. I just lost the focus. And it looked like from how he responded after catching it, like it's not like he caught it and kind of jogged in like, hey, I wasn't going to get him anyways. It looked like just from his initial reaction, oh, whoa, whoops, I didn't realize the amount of out.
He did kind of have that. He had that ghost in the deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
Kind of look in his eyes like, whoops. He almost looked like he wanted to cock and throw, and then he kind of
like he looked like he was about to try to recover. Yes, if you freeze that and you look at that closely, it looked like it was that. Oh, wait a second, like maybe I can, and it's like no, not going to happen. Well, why do we continue to have problems with Cleveland? I know we're 4-4 maybe this year, but in general, Cleveland continues to do what they do. One of the best records in all of baseball, right? And their manager is up for manager of the year, and they do it on a limited budget. And I maybe you've got some insight from all of your farm system coverage over the years. I don't want to put you on the spot, but have you heard anything about Cleveland? Do you know, like,
well, yeah,
I know they've got a great and respected organization in front office, but what's going on in the farm system?
I mean, you nailed it right on the head right there. You could have stopped with great and respected front office. They have a phenomenal scouting department. They talked about a little bit in the broadcast tonight about how Cleveland's able to pull these guys out of nowhere. Guys, Chuck said it in the postgame. You never heard of this guy before this year. And now he comes up, and they're just able to pull these guys from thin air that produce. And you got to give credit to their scouting department. They find talent that nobody else seems to find, and they get the most out of that talent. And then, you go beyond that. They use a lot of the new tech that's been around. They've been using it longer than the White Sox have. And they hire great coaching. They don't skimp on coaching. They never have. Tito Francona was in that dugout for so long, so well respected. And he always had a good coaching staff around him as well. And, throughout their minor league system, they've got great instructors. They're just an organization that runs like a well-oiled machine. And even when you look at their roster and their lineup at the start of a season, you're going, they got a shot to contend in the Central, but you're not giving them a whole lot of credit. And all of a sudden they're running away with it. And not only do they have a shot in the Central, but you're thinking, hey, they may be able to compete with some of the best teams in baseball. Yeah. Because they do all the small things and they do everything right. They churn out pitching as well.
Yeah. That is, and they give it away. And when you give pitching away, you've got it, right? Sitting in, in the farm, you've got other arms. You're not giving it away thinking I'm not going to have pitching for the next decade or whatever. You still have a plan, and you're confident in how you're able to develop and find the talent. And that's what's kind of been impressive. But you talk about the little things and the fundamental stuff that the Chicago White Sox were supposed to be doing day in and day out. And we're going to be winning that way in 2024. It might have been the first or second inning of this here Cleveland game on Tuesday night. And I saw one of the best well-done relay throws by a baseball team in a long time. And again, most of my games I watch are Chicago White Sox. I haven't been seeing the fundamentals done correctly. So to see Cleveland, the ball hit out in center field, in the outfield, I believe DeYoung was trying to score from first, and it went from center field to the middle infielder that was going out for the relay, and then through a BB.
Also Jimenez, by the way.
There you go. through a BB to home, and the catcher I don't know if it almost looked like it deflected off the pitcher's glove or first baseman, whoever was there, kind of to cut in case there needed to be a throw to a different base or something. Must have been told at the last second, don't cut, let that through. Pulled his glove out.
Laid it,
yeah, pulled his glove back, and unbelievable. I mean, right on the money to get DeYoung like on the shoulder as he was sliding. It was, no wasted movement.
He was 3 feet short of the plate.
No wasted movement on that relay. It was just boom, boom, boom. I mean, that's called winning on the margins. That little stuff, to know where you need to be, accurate throws when it matters like that. And it was a one-run game, right?
It was a well-executed play. It was a great cutoff. Something that the White Sox really need to learn how to do. Not only, be able to hit the cutoff man or be accurate on their cutoff throws, but to hit the cutoff man in a situation like that where a base runner is maybe going to be a close play at home. And you have to understand that if you've got a decent middle infielder who's going to take that cut, and he's got a decent arm, is probably going to get the ball to home quicker than you are from throwing deep in the outfield.
Yeah.
You can be Andrew Benintendi and try to lollipop one in, and you're not getting anybody. It's going to bounce and roll, like a putt on a green. Or you can be Luis Robert Jr., who's rearing back and throwing it, and it's maybe, you're in deep center field, and it's more of a rainbow than it is a line drive. Your better chance is hitting the cutoff man on a frozen rope and then let him throw another frozen rope.
Yes.
You'll actually, even though there's more moving parts in there, more often than not are going to get the ball there quicker.
You remember those Tom Amansky videos that they used to show with Fred McGriff, hawking that back in the day, and they would be working on relays thrown in buckets that were turned on the side, and that was what that looked like. It was just, frozen rope to frozen rope, quick pivot, get the ball out. I mean, it was unbelievable.
I've seen videos now where they're timed. They've got a clock.
Yeah.
And they've shown, what the difference between what a lollipop from center field looks like and 2 frozen ropes. And the difference is, in some cases,
that's smart. That's really smart. If you're like a high school coach, or, even probably earlier now, the way Little League is and traveling teams and how competitive things are at like an 8-year-old level, is to demonstrate that to your players. This is the stuff. And to time kids running bases, and if you cut the base this way and you hit the base with this foot, look what you're saving. Look at how your running can help us. Like that little stuff, just to see the difference. That visual, I think, would be very helpful. Before we get any further, because I want to talk more about arms and running, but Sean wanted to know in the chat, can you do a Panther impression, Danny?
Oh, yeah, that's no. I mean, maybe a cougar.
Pat's was, and I'm not going to do it justice.
Was like that
Pat's was like,
it was like that was awesome.
It was an aggressive Panther. It was all Panthers are probably aggressive. So, but that one was, that was on the spot. It was wonderful.
Thanks for putting me on the spot, by the way, Sean. We appreciate your comments. I just, it's just not my thing, man.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'll give you the rawr.
Now everyone's going to be working on their Panther growls. Anybody that's doing
God, I hope not. Content. I hope so. Actually, it's kind of fun
with this type of season. That's what we're doing here. Now, speaking of outfield arms, boy, Cleveland ran on Sheets anytime they had the opportunity. I mean, when he was getting his hands on the ball, and no surprise,
Sheets
they were
an outfielder.
How about
Sheets
that?
Is not an outfielder.
How about that? What a concept. They need some offense. They need some pop. We'll put them out there. And everybody's going to do that. They were doing it last year. Anytime he's in the outfield and a good team that has got some scouting and some development and knows how to prepare, as soon as he touches it, even if you're like, I don't think I should be going to second, you see guys with second in their mind when they round first, because they know
eyeballs look like coffee saucers, man.
I mean, and just not even on the mark. At least throw it on the mark. Up the line, all over the place. Always
He's
a joy to watch.
First baseman. They don't really have to throw the ball all that much.
Yeah, he is something. He really is. So before we go a little bit maybe to this weekend, some of Nightingale's comments, maybe even the Dodgers series if you wanted. What we found out earlier today, get that heater ready.
You said Nightingale, and I'm like, oh.
You said the whisperer.
I mean, the next thing you're going to tell me is you heard the Bruce Levine comments on Saturday morning as well.
I just from Levine, what James
Levine, whatever the hell his name
there,
is.
I can't stomach listening to that guy. We talked about Jose Abreu when he was let go by the Houston Astros a couple weeks ago, and our thoughts on that. And I think there were far more bring him home stuff than this next guy we're going to talk about, which everybody probably knows, but far more love for Jose Abreu, even though bringing back Jose Abreu, I wouldn't want to do unless it's just a one-day contract, retire as a White Sox player or whatever. We'll have a ceremony or something. But Tim Anderson, DFA'd by the Miami Marlins early on Tuesday. He was going through some scuffles. I believe there was possibly a rehab, or I can't remember if he was sent down to AAA just because he was, awful, or if he was rehabbing something. I think it was a rehab. Anyway, DFA'd, and I didn't get a lot of bring him backs. I saw a few. I don't think would be the right decision, but I mean, maybe we start there. Would you want him? Would you want the Sox to go after TA? Get him into maybe a minor league deal or something. Say, you know what? I think he just needs to be back in Chicago, the place that we all thought he needed to get away from.
Okay. So I guess I have a short answer and I have a little bit longer answer. You know what? I'm just going to kind of give it to you all in one, I guess.
There you go.
All up in a bow. But the thing is we look at the trade deadline looming here shortly, right? There's going to be a draft in a couple, and soon, and then there's going to be a trade deadline shortly after that. And the White Sox are planning on trading away Paul DeJong. Now you could bring up any number of guys from the minor leagues, but your big guy that everybody wants to see and everybody's been talking about is Colson Montgomery, who is just now starting to put some better, bat on the ball in AAA. He's kind of got off to a slow start. A lot of folks are looking at his numbers without watching games, which I get. I understand that everybody's going to subscribe to MILB and spend a lot of time watching games, but things are kind of coming together for him a little bit more the last, I would say, month or so, even though the numbers don't really reflect it. Defensively, he's been better, but I do believe he still needs a little bit of time to develop. He's moved up. Like last year, he moved up 3 levels. This year he's, been playing in Charlotte and struggling a little bit. I think he just needs a little more time. I'm not in a hurry to bring him up, right at the deadline when Paul DeJong gets moved. So in saying so, I think maybe you wait to see if TA clears waivers and see if you can get him on a minor league contract to come back to Chicago. It's not going to hurt anything unless there's some behind the scenes stuff that, has been thought maybe there is, or has been going on in the past and they really don't want him around, but I don't see an issue with it. I don't care if he stinks right now. Yeah. And there's no reason to even worry about that if, you can get him on the cheap and once he clears waivers and they're only going to pay a little bit of what, of what he was being paid. I don't have a problem with it. I don't see it as like, we're doing it to pay tribute to TA either, though. I mean, there was a lot of off the field antics that made its way into the news. Tons. And I don't think, really, unfortunately, kind of shot himself in the foot to have any kind of large tribute paid to him here in Chicago. And I think a lot of fans haven't forgotten about that.
Yeah,
I don't much where I stand on the whole thing.
Yeah, I could see that. I just don't. I don't think, and again, I don't know. No one knows what's going on. No one really knows, of course. I just don't think he'd want to come back to
I don't
Chicago.
think he would either.
You
There's
know,
the infamous video clip that he denies what that was ever said, but when he was like,
yeah,
I hate it here
right,
clip. Uh,
yeah,
there's a lot of folks in Chicago that are feeling the same way right now when it feels like the entire city is in rebuild mode. Every major franchise
yeah. I think he
is in
would
a
want
state of
to. I think
rebuild.
you'd
They're
want to
like,
stay away from here, and I feel like the Sox made a decision, and I don't. It's not like they haven't done it before or brought guys back. There's been different Bartolo Colon, Harold Baines. There's been others that have been. I think Carl Everett had multiple stints. There have been guys that have had multiple stints in a White Sox uniform, but I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening. And Drew put it in the chat about starting shortstop in the 2022 All-Star game to now. I mean, just go back to that World Baseball Classic, and he was the toast of the town, and switching to second base, and they had to have him in the lineup, and then of course we're going to be coming up to the anniversary of the Field of Dreams game in a few weeks. I mean, that was 3 years ago.
The score saying that he should be the
Yeah.
face of not just the White Sox, but the face of baseball.
I think it was Joe Buck. Joe Buck called into the score and said 3 years ago he should be the face of baseball. 3 years ago.
Not just the White Sox, the face of the league. And with his swag and his energy.
So, and he said it himself, he wanted to do that. And he was on commercials. He was, on a video game, and it really looked like he was going to be
the game.
Yeah,
Timmy Anderson was Change the Game. He was the face of Change the Game.
It was the bat flip against Keller, the bobblehead that got turned into it. I mean, the swag, the everything, and here we go, man. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. But when you hear a little bit of what happened, and if we're to believe all of the stuff that came out in social media,
well, it's hard not to speculate, right?
And then there was some other personal stuff. I think he had some tragedy with some friends in his life, and just all of that. And I don't
being murdered, and then the whole baby mama drama. Which I refuse to talk about.
Probably the pressures, of course, of maybe the things that he alluded to and said and wanted to do of being a face not only for the White Sox but for all of baseball. And it's not going right. The body's not holding up. The numbers aren't quite there. He fell off, and all that just crushing with your personal stuff. I mean, it's just an absolute recipe for disaster, of course. And so it's just something that is just shocking. Pat made a comment on Sunday about, a good check-in of the 2021 White Sox during the offseason of where everybody's gone. Just 3 years after, where everybody's at and what has gone and what has happened in 3 short years to this team and really the organization, and add now Tim Anderson to that.
Yeah. We as Sox fans bought into the needle is pointing up thing for so long. The needle's pointing in the right direction. We bought into the whole, we're going to be contenders, and we're not just going to, we're just not going out to contend for one. We're going to go out and we're going to be perennial contenders, and we're going to build the farm, and we're going to have this pipeline to the majors. And Tim Anderson was a big part of that rebuild and was supposed to be not only the face of the organization, but the face of baseball. And lo and behold, none of what we were fed. We were practically spoon-fed. There was so many media campaigns put out by the White Sox that, it was in your face constantly, and we bought into it, and we felt that hype. And now you look back and you go, you talking about letting the air out of that balloon.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought Jake Berger goes to Miami, Tim Anderson follows a few months later, and Miami's been known to, kind of pull the best out of some guys after they've maybe had some issues, and it just didn't work out. It really hasn't worked out for either of them.
Well, last year when Berger got traded, I felt like
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
his first couple months there were fantastic. This year he's gone through his own struggles.
Yeah.
And now Timmy, and it's hard to put a finger on any of it. Just like this White Sox team, the last season and a half or so. I mean, really, you could go back to those years, even when they were contending, where the first half of Tony La Russa's first year, they looked great, and everything kind of tanked from there. It's hard to put a finger on any of what really went wrong, aside from a bunch of injuries. The team just, the guys that were part of the team before, the guys that are still remaining on the team, they just seem deflated. Something is going on in this organization that I assume somebody out there knows exactly what it is and is not putting it out to the media, aside from the fact that, maybe there's a stink on Jerry Reinsdorf not wanting to win as badly as he says he wants to win. And we all speculate on that, but I feel like there's something going on behind the scenes that we're not hearing. We are not being told, because there's no way that you can't. Guys like Tommy Pham, who, are supposed to light up a locker room and have, and
I think we lost Danny for a second there, unless I'm frozen. But hopefully Danny jumps back on in just a moment. I think there's absolutely something going on behind the scenes. Whether it's Jerry surrounding himself with people that will just obviously agree. Hello.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's all right. I was kind of.
I don't know if I lost you or you lost me or what, but
I think you were gone, but I continued to talk a little bit about your behind the scenes comment, and I think you're onto something there. I think there's things happening or not happening when you short staff, so to speak, and you surround yourself with people that just kind of agree with you. You surround yourself with people that you've known that don't really push you to get better as an organization, as a chairman, as a leader. You obviously don't have the breadth of personnel that other organizations have. You've probably put your priorities in other places, and there's a checks and balances, and it's not happening maybe like in other organizations. And the type, going back to the Tito and Francona and how Cleveland does things, and when you maybe don't have strong leaders and strong managers around strong coaches, and people aren't out for the absolute very best in everybody, and holding people accountable. It always comes down to accountability. Little things turn into big things. All speculation, but something absolutely has to be going on.
Well, if you go back to the beginning of this season, when we were told, that we're not going to put together a team of monster players, we're not going to go out and sign big bangers in the offseason, but we are going to get better defensively. We're going to do all the small things. We're going to play fast, all this stuff, and none of it has come to fruition. It feels like you bring in guys like Bannister, who are supposed to know how to fix things, and Getz coming in and saying that he's not happy with his team, and we're going to at least fix the things we can this season. And there's, in some cases, zero fix, and in other cases gone backwards. And it's the exact opposite of what we were, trying to be spoon-fed this offseason. And you're wondering, there's a disconnect somewhere, and somebody knows what that disconnect is. They're just not letting us know. And you'd hope that they would fix it, but it doesn't seem like they're in a hurry to do whatever that needs to be done.
And that's where it goes to, how come this hasn't been fixed? What happened? And you got to keep going to the top, man. You got to keep going to the head of this whole thing. And that's where the true accountability comes from. There were talks about last Wednesday. It was the first Mexican Heritage Night, outstanding jersey that was given away. It was a sellout, a weekday sellout. Of course, the Dodgers were in town, and you've got this promotion. First weekday sellout in 12 years that wasn't Cubs or opening day. That's insane. Absolutely insane. And Pedro had a quote after the game about how great the crowd was, and 36,000 plus, and they were in it, and we didn't hold up our end of the bargain, but the fans were in it, and this just shows you what it could be like. And we have all of these, oh yeah, I wonder if it could be like this, or how could it be like that, or if only. We know how it could happen. What the recipe is. Again, it's not a guarantee. The Mets found that out, and other teams have found it out recently.
Yeah.
When you spend money, you don't automatically get a championship delivered to you. But you sign superstars, you spend money to make money, and you will have people showing up consistently. We've demonstrated as a fan base, we're hungry for winning baseball. We show up when there's the product, and you're investing, we then invest. So that's the recipe right there. It's not a mystery of, how could this possibly happen again? My question is will it ever happen? Will it happen at that ballpark, or do we have to wait for a brand new spanking South Loop Park, if that ever happens, for people to want to come out during the week?
I honestly hope it doesn't. There's nothing wrong with the ballpark they're in right now. Zero, except for the fact that maybe you need to upgrade your security system to make the fan experience better. You might need to upgrade your marketing manager, but
I would agree with that.
Enough.
Cosign.
But honestly, there are ways to improve the park you're in. It's been regularly rated as one of the better ballparks in baseball. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't want to hear about it. Yes, would it be nice to be able to play, your early season games and late season games in a climate control building? Sure. But is it absolutely necessary? No. And I'm tired of hearing about it. And I don't want to hear about your uncertain, media contract that you're going to have with this new network, and you don't know who's going to distribute it. Like all these excuses of why the White Sox can't spend money or won't spend money or won't put together what they need to put together and make the changes they need to make. Tired of it, because it really all it is excuses. This is a multi-billion with a B. Multi-billion-dollar rated franchise.
Yeah.
Stop with the excuses. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, it is. It's just a bunch of excuses. And we're wondering when things will turn around. Like, when might there be some consistency of excitement from fans of when we're going to get a winning product again? And think about a number in your head about, how many trades might be happening for the White Sox at the deadline. Drew Bogues put out there 8.5. Could that be the over/under? But that's happening later this month. I mean, this could be the last month where you see a lot of these White Sox players. And Bob Nightengale, who writes for the USA Today, Baseball Insider, has been doing that for many, many decades. I get a sense that sometimes he seems to be plugged into something going on in the White Sox system, or wants to maybe lead you down a different road or put something out there that Jerry wants. He's had a lot lately on the White Sox in his Sunday morning articles. Just a few days ago, he spoke a lot about the trade deadline and talked about Crochet, Luis Robert Jr., and Andrew Benintendi. Per Bob Nightengale, the Chicago White Sox quietly engaged in brief contract extension talks with Garrett Crochet, but with no optimism towards reaching an agreement. The Sox intend to trade him by the July 30 deadline. The Dodgers have already made an offer to the White Sox for a Crochet, but it was quickly rejected. The White Sox have informed teams they are seeking young prospects with enormous upside. Danny Miller, what do you make of all that?
All right. Well, here's the thing. If anybody listened to Ian and James earlier this week, Sunday night, their podcast, they talked about this a little bit. And I'm not going to go into a lot of what they said, but James made the point that he feels like because of that statement in Bob's USA Today article, that he feels like it's probably in inevitability that Garrett Crochet is at least shopped really, really hard. Now the question is can anyone match the White Sox? Ask. And I'm still not sure that anyone can. If the White Sox better not trade him just to trade him and take a deal that they might have balked at, but are like, oh, this is kind of okay. it's pretty good, but we're not really wowed. But we know we're not going to sign him because we threw a contract extension at him and he turned it down. And Drew says right now in the chat, I think his value is better in the offseason. And if he continues to do what he's been doing this season, with 2 years left on his contract after this season's over, he might have pretty big value in the offseason as opposed to the trade deadline. I just don't know if anybody's going to want to match the White Sox ask at the deadline. So me personally, I find it really difficult to believe he's going to be gone. But everybody else kind of seems to be leaning on this Bob Nightengale thing that it might be a foregone conclusion that he is going to be gone. So
it's just aggressive.
It's just tough for me to say.
It's aggressive print to, put it out there, to put all of that laundry out there that the Sox intend to trade him by the July 30 deadline, to, put that out there with Garrett Crochet's name, that almost looking at like that Garrett is asking for too much, but we know as Sox fans, it most likely was Jerry and company giving too little, trying to lowball for sure, right? And with every start, especially, starts against Ohtani and the Dodgers, and then what he did, he wasn't razor sharp on Sunday in the finale against Colorado, but he's logging the innings. He's in uncharted territory, but his body feels great. He seems to be, and I know other people think he's a ticking time bomb. It's just a matter of time before the arm explodes. And I want the Chicago White Sox to invest in pitching, to build around pitching. And it seems, again, this is his first year as a starter, but boy, it's tough for me to stomach as a fan this quick knee-jerk reaction right now. Like, well, we tried. We don't have a lot of optimism. So that's it. We're going to trade him by the deadline here in a month. That's insane. It's tough for me to really warm up to that. It's like, that's your only option.
Yeah. Well, and you've heard me say multiple times on this show that I believe there is a full starting rotation in our minor league system and I think is going to be a really good one. But let's take the 8 or 9 or 10 names out there that we feel really good about in our system and say only, I don't know, half, maybe a little more than half really turn out to be the way they want them to be, the way what we expect out of them anyway. And, throughout the course of a season, it's always been said you're going to need 10 to 12 starting pitchers anyway, due to, dead arm periods or injuries or whatever the case may be. And I find it very difficult to think that trading Garrett Crochet, who's proven he can do it at least for half a season at this point, which nobody even thought he was going to be able to go this far and be as consistent and be as good as he has been this far. He's kind of getting to the point now where he's no longer in that prospect status, right? He's proving it. He knows that he's shown that he can do it. He leads the major leagues, or at least American League, in like 4 or 5 different categories, pitching categories, some of the best ones that you want. And you're going to trade him away for prospects. Prospects are suspects.
Mm-hmm.
This is a man who's shown he can do it. And if you look at some of the trades that, Rick and Kenny made during that rebuild, where we were sold on guys that were like, the Blake Rutherfords, the
oh boy.
And I bring that up because it was brought up on Ian and James' show as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you had the Basabes, you had
so
many of these guys that were like, these are guys that are not supposed to, they're supposed to be can't miss. And how many of those guys that were ranked high in our farm system never really even made it up to the major leagues, or if they did, they made it up for a short cup of coffee and it never really panned out, worked out for them. I don't like the idea of taking a proven talent who everybody is saying, well, he's got the injury bug. Yeah, he's been through 2 separate injuries that have brought him, that have forced him to miss time. Chances are he's not going to get that the TJ again so soon. And I don't honestly think he doesn't have a motion that's really going to make you feel like he's going to have another injury issue. Other than, like, a lot of people talk about the high leg kick, whatever. I think it looks fantastic.
What about the tight
it's
roll of the pants at the bottom, the jersey, the tight roll? Will that be an issue?
It's so old school, man, and I don't mind it at all.
Well, look, if you're not going to invest in him, who are you going to invest in, though? That's my question.
You know what? If you offer this guy a fair extension, extend it out 5 years, buy out his arbitration years at I don't know, offer him 150 for 5 years, 175, put him in that 15 to 20 million a year range, guarantee most of it, but put an injury clause in it, but guarantee him enough to say, well, you know what, even if I get injured during the course of this contract, I'm going to be paid enough to where I don't have to worry about my future. But again, a lot of people seem to think that he's not going to take anything from the White Sox because he wants to pitch out the next 2 years and explore. If he can do what he's doing right now for 2 more years beyond this, then he's going to hit the free agent market and he's going to be a $300 million pitcher.
Which in a ideal world, the Sox wouldn't blink at that. The Sox would say, okay, we want the best of the best. We want to spend money. We are that type of organization where every free agency hits, the Sox are always in the conversation with the top tier free agents, whether it be arms or position players, bats, whatever it may be. So hearing this, whatever you want to put into it, we tried, we gave it a Jerry try, and that's about it. So now we're just going to trade. So then
through our herring. That's the new line.
As fans, what hope do we have that you're going to try in free agency, that you're going to try to extend anybody that's currently budding as a prospect and a young talent in 3 to 5 years, that you're going to keep anybody? When is that person that you're going to decide, okay, we want to invest in you. We want to be building around you or have you as a key piece. When will that happen? Will it ever happen?
It's a great question. I wish I had an answer for it. I just feel like it's a non-starter here in Chicago. Yeah. I feel like there's always going to be a budget constraint. I feel like if the White Sox didn't sell, even if they did sell out consistently at home, or if their attendance was 2 million or above every year, I still don't think Jerry would open up the purse strings. I don't think he would give you a budget that was going to be anywhere close to the CBA first threshold, or the whatever, the CBT or whatever. I just don't feel like it's ever going to happen because he feels like players just don't deserve that much money. I don't care if you're Bryce Harper. You don't deserve that much monny.
It's an old
you're only
way.
Part of you're only a part of a cog. You're only a part of a bigger whole, and you just don't deserve that much money. That's just the way he operates.
Yeah. Crochet's not the only one. Welcome, Trey. Better late than never, buddy. Good to have you.
I was going to tell you, you're late on the Robert stuff.
We talked a little Robert stuff, but we could talk more Robert stuff now. As Nightengale said, the Sox have had several teams contact them about Luis Robert Jr., but with his struggles, maybe
they might stop calling after tonight's
after his either loss of outs or his
pocket.
Sox are considering hanging on to him at least through the winter, since he's under control through 2027. So maybe he's the real jewel, the gem at the winter meetings. But hearing that as well, again, not surprised because I'm a Sox fan for a very long time and I know how they operate. But again,
jaded you are.
Yeah, well, you're ground down to just dust and powder, because you've seen it too many times. So I think I'd be more upset with Garrett Crochet leaving than Robert Jr., to be honest with you, because I think I really value pitching, and it's something that I think the Sox desperately need to do. They need to do a lot of things, but invest in pitching is one of them. Luis Robert Jr., they're not going to.
Last time the White Sox had a lefty that was this dominant.
Well, you can look at Rodon in what was it? The first part of 2021, you had Sale was down. I mean, he never won a Cy Young, but Sale had some really crazy years there. I mean, he was breaking strikeout records. I mean, at least team records. He had a couple double-digit win years.
I mean, Sale was traded almost 8 years ago now,
though. Fall of
7 years ago?
2016. Yeah.
Going on 8 years ago. Almost 8 years ago. And, Rodon was a half a season of real dominance. And yes, Garrett Crochet's only got about a half a season of dominance in him right now. But Garrett Crochet is also younger than both of those guys were at those particular times in their careers. And
clutch. What about Dallas Keuchel?
Super dominant Keuchel, man. We'd extend him. Where's
Dallas
he at now?
Keuchel.
Where's Dallas Keuchel going now?
Well,
Did he just get DFA'd?
No, the Brewers picked him up.
That's right. They traded him for
Brewers
$1.
took a flyer. I mean, I think he pitched like immediately after they picked him up, rocking people to sleep with his, changing speeds and being a leader.
Changing speeds. It was like, he's just the 13U baseball team called.
Oh gosh, that was
he had a 72 mile an hour.
That was what was that? That was the off season, fall of 2019. We missed on all of our pitchers, and so we're going after Keuchel. We're bringing him in, and I was excited at the time when that happened because I'm like, all right, you got somebody. You went after a proven arm. He had a Cy Young on his mantle. Not the guy I wanted, but okay. You went after and you got
Keuchel and Kimbrel.
Yeah.
Oh man, they were really going for it, weren't they?
They were. That was the Yaz Grandal off season as well. That was the big splash that started it. And I
was happy about that signing actually.
I mean, he came off of a heck of a year with the Brewers. I mean, his numbers.
His first season with the Sox wasn't awful either, but oof.
Well, you're going to hold somebody to high standards when it's the largest team contract, and the new leader in the house these days is Benintendi. And what Nightengale said about Benintendi is that the White Sox are openly shopping him around and would love to get out of that contract. How about that, Danny? I'd love to get out of that horrible contract. He's still owed nearly $50 million from 2025 to 2027. So
5 years of that guy, huh?
Yeah, that's
5 years of Benintendi.
Yeah,
it was 5 years too late when they signed him.
That was a signing that ridiculous at the time based on what's going on in terms of just him as a player, but not like outrageous in baseball terms. Like the Sox should have been doing those kind of signings for a while, and it just so happened that it's Andrew Benintendi, which I kind of got why it was, right, with all the different connections throughout the organization and Grifol in town and the Royals and this, that, and the other, and the past of he was the one that got away, kind of. But man, that contract and what he's been doing last year and this year, awful.
Yeah, my thing is, I heard again, James and Ian talked about this a little bit yesterday or Sunday. The thing with him is, James said maybe you can package him up with another pitcher somewhere in the organization and eat part of the contract and kind of take some of that money off your books and whatever. I'll be honest with you, I would be okay if the White Sox sent him away for next to nothing in return. And even if you got to eat half of that $50 million or more, let's just get some of that money off the books. But really, I think they're just trying to dangle a carrot because, they got a bad contract on their hands, and it is what it is, and we'll see if anybody takes.
Any chance that they cut him like the Astros did with the amount of money still in the books with Abreu, and they just said,
we all know Jerry doesn't like to pay anybody.
I know.
That isn't
That's
working.
the other problem.
So that's difficult to say. But if I was GM, I'd say, you're DFA'd. See you later.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't clear waivers. Maybe somebody picks you up and does me a favor, but chances are it's unlikely. And I don't really care. Just eat that money and move on.
Move on, start fresh. It feels like that's been what the White Sox have had to do
What am I seeing in the chat here? I'd love to date Kate Upton, Trey says. Wait, who's dating Kate Upton now? The only one I knew about was Verlander.
He said he's talking about dream scenarios, like the Sox would like to have somebody take the money.
Gotcha. Okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah,
we were talking about Keuchel and those other guys. I'm like, wait a minute, did she move on to another major league pitcher? My bad.
Oh boy, that's an image. No, so look, I feel like this is what we're going to be dealing with throughout the entirety of July. I think things will get really nutty, as they sometimes do. 48 hours, 24 hours down to the wire, perhaps. Teams get desperate. Sox seem to be shopping everybody, and there's still a month left. You got teams that might not think that they're in it, and then like all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we're kind of in this. We're hanging around. Stay tuned.
I was just giving the A-OK to Trey over there when he said she moved on to me.
Yeah. How about that?
All right there, buddy. Dreams. Oh, Lord. Yeah. So I am looking forward to the trade deadline just to see, because this is really for me.
So 8.5. Drew Bogue said it at 8.5. He was talking trades.
I'm still over.
You're still over players. You think over 8.5 guys are going to be gone?
I don't know about total trades, but total players. I do.
Total White Sox players. You're saying over 8.5.
I do. I do believe that.
Wow.
I do believe that. Just because I think there's like 5 guys in the bullpen by themselves that are probably going to be gone. At least 4. And you got between those 4, Tommy Pham.
Ian says trade them all, which I kind of am with too. Just burn the whole thing down. And
let's start with that bullpen.
They're having auditions.
Who do you think in the bullpen is going to go away? They're having auditions for what? I'm sorry.
They're having auditions for Sox fans that want to sing the national anthem. Just trade everybody and have auditions to field a team the last 2 months of the season.
I can play first base better than Andrew Vaughn.
There you go. Hey, Andrew Vaughn's swinging the bat.
And I'm probably closer to 6 inches taller than him than
Andrew Vaughn's swinging the bat right now. In the bullpen, Brebbia gets talked about a lot. He's logging a lot of innings. He's a go-to. Why people keep talking about Kopech, I guess it's because he can hit triple digits and he throws hard. But man, he's a mess in every other sense. Who else is gonna garner interest? I thought Leisure would for a while there. I thought they'd say,
I think they're going to hold on to him though. I don't even think they're shopping him.
Yeah,
I think they see him. The reason we've been hearing him talked about being possibly the closer of future is because that's exactly what they see for him. They're not going to go out and spend big. They learned their lesson about what Rick Hahn did and spending $40 million on a bullpen or whatever. It was $48 million.
So you put Brebbia. Ian was saying Tanner Banks. In terms of bullpen, I think Fetty and Flexen. Okay, there's 4 that are realistically gone. You could throw Kopech in there because maybe somebody is just like, hey,
Kopech's gone.
I need a fireballer. I need somebody that's just going to come in and
I'm 100% on Kopech.
Okay, so there's 5. There's 5 arms. You got DeYoung, he's gone. There's
Soroka. You can throw Soroka in there.
Soroka and then Pham. So now I'm at 8. Okay, wow. When you really sit there and do the numbers, I guess we could probably push the over under to probably 9.5, and still have an argument about that.
I think I'm probably right at 9, which is why I'm taking the over. I think setting it at 8.5 and putting that hook on there.
Drew Bogues, that's Mr. Drew Bogues, man.
I think Mr. Drew Bogues.
He knows what he's talking about.
He's got a future as a bookmaker.
Yeah, I would say that now I'm starting to think, I'll go over. And I might even go over 9.5 now.
Trade Pedro, Kirk says. I wish we could. But,
Hey, the Sox traded Ozzie years ago to the Miami Marlins.
They did.
Season. And Cooper had a coach the last 2 games, I believe. So maybe there's some crazy team out there that's like, I need this guy. He loves 1-run games, but he's horrible at them. We'll change that.
Oh, Drew says he didn't come up with that. Was that a Vegas line somewhere? One of the sports
It was,
books had that
Ian
line?
and James talked about our own Future Sox pod. They had it on Sunday night. That was their over under.
Oh, it was. Okay. All right. My apologies. Yeah, I'm going to take the over. I think we're probably in the more than 9 to 10 range of bodies, maybe not trades themselves, because some of these might come together in packages, but as is bodies being moved, I'm at least 9. By my
Trey's
count.
talking Vaughn or Sheets. Boy, if someone wants to take Sheets, please do. That would be outstanding.
You know what? I bet one of these teams with an analytics department is looking at his hard hit rate and his barrel rate and his contact. He's in like top 5 in contact in baseball. Or at least he
that's
was.
got to be worth something. That has got to be worth something.
And maybe the average doesn't show it, but since he's kind of gone away from trying to reach for launch angle and he's gone back to really good bat to ball skills, I think there might be a team that'll take a chance on Gavin Sheets.
Well, it's all exciting stuff. Get to know some new faces. Keep subscribing. Tell your friends, your Sox fan friends about Future Sox, because there's going to be a lot of new faces on this club the last 2 months of the season, and you're going to want to know about them. At least pretend. At least try to pretend that you're going to want to know about them. This is where we're at. This is where we're at for a while, folks. I have a feeling for the next couple seasons.
Trey says, speaking of launch angle, Aloy. Yeah, it's negative launch angle. A guy drives the ball into the dirt every at bat.
I got to give credit to Mailman Jack, who was in on the Good Guys Talk Back chat on Sunday night, and he said, "I'm old enough to remember when Aloy hit fly balls," and that really I had a laugh at that. This seems like forever ago.
Well, he's turning over his top hand, but what do I know? I'm not a hitting coach.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's been well over an hour, Danny. I can't believe we do it. It's just unbelievable to be talking about a team that's 24-63. Thank you so much to everybody jumping in the chat, spending their Tuesday night with us, listening to the audio wherever you find your podcasts, subscribing to the Future Sox YouTube channel and all the great content creators that you'll find here under the umbrella of Future Sox on Twitter X. So always a good time, Danny.
Yeah, absolutely a great time. And again, I know I've said it the last couple weeks. If you haven't been already, those draft profiles are out there. Know who we are getting in the upcoming draft. Even before this trade deadline comes up, the draft is coming up first. Future Sox is. You guys go check them out on the website at futuresox.net. Follow us on Twitter. Smash that like button. Smash it. Help us out here, guys. We are sitting here growing hemorrhoids and smoking cigarettes in front of a camera for you for absolutely free. So the least you can do is give us a help by giving us a like. So we appreciate all of you, by the way.
That is hey, that's a plea right there. That's a call for help like no other, and Danny means it. We appreciate it. We really do. We'll catch you next Tuesday night. He's Danny Miller at Danny Miller FS. I am Nick Murawski at Nick _GGTB. Until next time, go Sox.